You sit there while everyone screams at the TV, you feel nothing, and everyone looks at you like something is wrong with you. They ask, "Did you see the game?" And you genuinely don't care. You smile politely, but inside you're thinking, why does this even matter? You've been made to feel boring, disconnected, maybe even broken. But what if I told you, you're not any of those things? In this video, we're going to break down the real psychology behind why some people obsess over sports and others just don't. And by the end, you'll finally understand why your brain works differently. Not worse, just different. Let's talk about it. Here's what nobody tells you. Millions of people paint their faces, they scream, they cry when their team loses, they spend entire weekends glued to screens watching strangers throw a ball. And then there's you. You don't get it, you never have. You walk into a room full of people celebrating a touchdown and you feel like an outsider. They're hugging, they're yelling, and you're standing there thinking, what am I missing? So you start to wonder, is something wrong with me? Am I cold? Do I lack passion? The answer is no. But there is something happening in your brain that's completely different from theirs, and it's actually fascinating. Let's start with the basic truth. Humans are tribal, we have been for thousands of years. Back in the day, being part of a group meant survival. Your tribe protected you, helped you hunt, kept you alive. Sports today are just modern tribes, with jerseys instead of war paint. When someone watches their team play, their brain releases something called oxytocin. It's the bonding hormone, the same chemical that makes you feel close to your family. Their brain literally tricks them into thinking those millionaire athletes are part of their clan. Wild, right? But here's the thing. People who don't obsess over sports often have lower tribal instincts. That doesn't mean they're loners, it just means their identity isn't tied to being part of a group. They're more individualistic. They don't need to belong to something bigger to feel whole. And science backs this up. Studies show that people with low sports interest have way less us versus them thinking. They don't automatically hate the other team just because they're wearing different colors. They just don't see the world that way. Now let's talk about what's actually happening inside a sports fan's brain during a game. You know that feeling right before you open a gift, that little rush, that's dopamine. Sports fans get that same hit, over and over, every play, every pass, every shot. It's constant and it's addictive. Brain scans show that watching your team activates the same reward centers as gambling, the same ones that light up when someone pulls a slot machine lever. And here's the key, it's the uncertainty that makes it powerful. You don't know if your team will win, that unpredictability keeps the dopamine flowing. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the most addictive reward pattern there is. Your brain craves it. But people who don't care about sports, their dopamine systems just aren't triggered by watching other people compete. And this might actually be genetic. Research suggests that variations in your dopamine receptor genes can predict how much you care about watching sports. Think about that. Your complete indifference to whether a team wins or loses might literally be in your DNA. Here's something else that's really interesting. Sports fans do this thing called basking in reflected glory. When their team wins, they say, "We won." When their team loses, they lost. Notice the switch. People who don't obsess over sports don't do this, they're more consistent, they don't need external victories to feel successful. Their self-esteem is stable, it doesn't depend on things completely outside their control. And honestly, that's powerful. Now you might be thinking, but sports fans seem so passionate, so connected, am I missing out on something? Not really. Here's the truth, everyone has a limited capacity for caring deeply about things. Sports fans pour that empathy into teams and players, they practice caring about strangers wearing jerseys. But non-sports people, they direct that same empathy somewhere else. Social causes, personal relationships, creative projects, intellectual challenges. Studies show that people with low sports interests score way higher in openness to experience. They love art, beauty, ideas. They're getting their emotional highs, just from different places. Their brains are seeking the same things, meaning, connection, transcendence. They're just finding it somewhere else. Here's the part that explains why sports fans and non-sports fans sometimes can't understand each other. It comes down to how you experience meaning. Sports fans find meaning in narrative, the underdog story, the comeback, the rivalry, its drama, real stakes, unpredictable outcomes. People who don't care about sports find that randomness meaningless. They think, why would I emotionally invest in an outcome I can't control, in a game performed by people I don't know, in something that doesn't affect my actual life? They're not wrong. But neither are sports fans. It's just two different approaches to the human need for story. One group finds epic narrative in a championship run. The other finds it in a book, a relationship, a creative project, a scientific discovery. Neither is better, they're just different. Psychologists talk about something called parasocial investment versus direct engagement. Sports fans build one-sided relationships with teams and players. They care deeply, but it doesn't go both ways. Non-sports people prefer investing emotional energy where there's actual reciprocity, where their care matters, where they're participants, not just spectators. And here's what's really interesting. People who don't obsess over sports often report feeling more present in their own lives. They're not spending 3 hours every weekend experiencing someone else's struggle. They're engaged in their own. There's something quietly powerful about that. Let me paint a picture. It's Sunday, the big game is on. Person A is on the couch, heart racing, yelling at the screen. When their team scores, they feel euphoria. When they lose, they're genuinely sad for hours. Person B is in another room, reading, creating, thinking, building something, connecting with someone they love. Neither person is wasting their time. Person A is experiencing intense emotion and tribal connection. Person B is investing in their own growth and real relationships. Different paths, same human needs. So here's what you need to understand. If you don't care about sports, you're not missing out on some fundamental human experience. You're not broken. You're not boring. You're just different. Your brain's reward system is calibrated differently. Your tribal instincts work differently, your empathy flows in different directions. And that's completely okay. Actually, it's more than okay. Because while others are pouring emotional energy into games they can't control, you have the freedom to invest in things you can actually influence. Your own growth, your own relationships, your own creative work. That's not a weakness, that's a strength. So what do you do with this information? First, stop apologizing for who you are. When someone asks, "Did you see the game?" you don't need to feel awkward, just be honest. "Not really my thing," that's enough. Second, recognize where your passion actually goes. If you're not pouring energy into sports, where are you pouring it? Art, ideas, helping people, building something, own that, celebrate it. Third, stop comparing yourself to others. Just because the majority does something doesn't make it right or wrong, it just makes it common. You're allowed to be different. Fourth, find your own sources of meaning. If you're not getting narrative and excitement from sports, where are you getting it? Make sure you're feeding your need for story, challenge, and connection, just in your own way. And finally, understand the people around you. When your friend goes crazy over a game, you now know what's happening in their brain. You don't have to join in, but you can understand it, and that creates connection even in difference. Here's the bottom line. The world will always try to make you feel like you should care about what everyone else cares about. But you don't have to. Your brain is wired to find meaning in different places, to seek connection in different ways, to invest your emotional energy where it actually matters to you. And that's not just okay, that's beautiful. So the next time someone looks at you like you're crazy for not watching the game, remember this. You're not the one who's different. You're just the one who's playing a different game. And your game, it might have higher stakes. Because you're not investing in someone else's victory. You're investing in your own. Take a moment today. Think about where your passion really goes. What makes you feel alive? What makes you care deeply? That's your thing. Own it. And stop apologizing for not caring about what everyone else cares about. You're exactly who you're supposed to be.